How long have you had it?
For coming on a year, October. I have some good video footage of the.
How's the sharpness?
The sharpness in daylight, great. It starts to get a little pixelated with less light.
Hey, Chinese 有中文的呢？有吗？有中文的，它是有中文的。我选中 Chinese， 问一下吧。
What's that?
有中文你会选？
You can set it up to talk to your phone and see the previews and everything and load them, yeah. But I just wait until I'm home. So much, yeah, to play with.
Yeah. I'm thinking of getting one.
Yeah, you should get one. I think so.
你选到中文了。Did you just leave some?
Yeah.
It's on.
It's on.
But he's not talking. So I
It's
can't
not
hear
talking.
anything.
Can you change the next?
Change the language? No, I don't think so.
跟你没有来着，真没有。OK，thank you。
带的，
我带到。好。
Can everybody hear my
That's
voice?
him. That's our guide.
Live.
That's our guide.
Okay, yes, okay.
Let me know if the headset is not.
Is he down there now? Oh, they have a paper. They have a paper one in other languages. No, I think it's at the start.
Okay, thank you. 它是有文字的东西，有文字。
All right. Now, before we start the tour, I have to cover some rules with you. 2 big rules. Rule number 1: everyone in the group, you have to stay with me. Do not wander away. The Capitol is a secure building, and the tour is not self-guided. So just stay with me. Keep up with the group as we move around. You don't want to lose anyone. And we should be together for about 35 minutes or so. If you had to leave before the tour was done, just let me know and I'll point you in the right direction. But again, stay with me. Rule number 2, don't touch the art. Pretty simple. We're going to be around paintings and statues, and you can't touch any of it. The big thing we're asking there is just be aware of your surroundings and don't lean on the statues. No leaning on the statues. But that's it. To recap, stay with me and don't touch anything. It's easy. You can take pictures during the tour, and video is fine too. But with pictures, I will suggest maybe you don't stop in the middle of a doorway when you take a picture. We're under a lot of pressure to keep things clear. Let's get out of here. Everybody follow me.
Follow me，看，follow me。跟着他走3层地，不要过那个，一定要是他。OK。
have to. But everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to the United States Capitol. Again, I'm Danny. I'll show you around the building today. And we're going to start the tour because we're in the Capitol. So going up the escalator, we're leaving the visitor center that's underground and entering the Capitol itself. So right now we're on the first floor, the ground floor of the Capitol. And we're in the middle section of the building. So we're directly beneath the rotunda. We're going to go up there in just a minute. But you have everything down this way is the north wing of the Capitol, and that's the Senate side. The south wing is the House of Representatives side, while the middle section where we're standing, this is like neutral. And then this space is underneath the rotunda. This is the crypt of the Capitol. I'm going to assume most of you know what would normally be in a crypt, right? Like think of crypt under an old church. That was the plan. Under the middle of the floor, there is an empty tomb that was intended for the remains of George Washington. So the original plan was to entomb George Washington's body. But Washington died in 1799, and his personal wishes were honored. He was buried at his home in Alabama. And since that's what Washington wanted, Congress dropped the idea to entomb his remains in the Capitol. And nowadays, you can go to Mount Vernon. It's about 15 miles south of D.C. They have tours there. You can also visit the gravesite, pay your respects to George and Martha. And at the Capitol today, the tomb that's under the floor, it's not sealed off. We can get to the tomb from the basement of the Capitol. Because unlike the Alamo, the Capitol has a basement. It's a good reference. Anyway, we use the tomb, but it's just for storage. Like today we store old office furniture and other junk in the space that was supposed to be the final resting place. So not hilarious. But does anyone have any questions? It's not that exciting. But yeah, question back here.
The statue.
Yeah, good question. So the question about the statue. So we'll talk in depth about the statues when we're upstairs. Each state has 2 statues in the Capitol, a national statuary collection. And they're selected by the state legislatures. So it's the legislature of the state that decides who represents the state with the statue in the Capitol. So if you don't like your state statue, you gotta go to your state legislatures. The state can comment. They haven't talked about statues. Why don't we get moving? Let's go see the good stuff. We'll spend as much time as we can in the rooftop and then do that deep dive on statues. We gotta go around this way. Follow me. We have UK skaters with us. One of my favorite state statues is on the right, Sam Adams from Massachusetts. He helped plan the Boston Tea Party. That's where the party was made.
I like the commentary. It's awesome.
All right, we're down the hall. We come to this big staircase. We have to make the ascent. Oh man.
At least part of it.
backs towards the wall, and we'll have everyone between the bust of Dr. Martin Luther King and the Kansas statue of the White Eisenhower. Gathered in front of the painting between Dr. King and Eisenhower. And here is the plan. This is our parking spot for a few minutes, and I'll tell you about the rotunda, I'll answer questions, and then we're gonna do a lap around the room together, so you can take pictures and see things from different angles as we go. But this is it, what do you think? Yeah, the rotunda of your US Capitol. Are you a little bit impressed? Yeah? But if you're impressed, the rotunda is doing its job. Today we have ceremonies in the rotunda. You're not going to find Congress coming in here to meet and debate and vote on things. It's just ceremonies. But the rotunda was not built for ceremonies. Originally, we built the rotunda just to impress people. That's it. And if you're coming here like 160, 170 years ago, the rotunda would be the largest room you'd ever see in your life. It would knock your socks off. And we're just trying to impress the space of the rotunda as well as the art, like all the paintings, the carvings on the walls. But then you can look at the art, and I suspect you might recognize a painting or two, especially if you grew up in the United States. But if you didn't grow up in this country, looking around, I don't think it's that hard to figure out. It's clearly events and people from American history depicted throughout the art in the rotunda. At the basic level, the art is trying to tell a story of the United States. But you have to keep in mind it's a 19th century version of the story. Most of the art is from the early and mid-19th century. A little bit was done in the 20th. So the stuff that we see depicted is showing us the things that certain Americans thought were most important in our history back in the 19th century. And because of that time period of when the art was done, we end up seeing a lot of the same types of scenes repeated over and over again. So you'll find lots of scenes from the American Revolution in the art. There's also lots of scenes that have Europeans exploring and colonizing the New World, and lots of scenes that show interactions between Native Americans and Europeans. So that's the bulk of the history. And that would all be found under the windows. So under the windows, down to the floor, the scenes and people from history. But you can't miss that big painting at the top. And the painting at the top, that's not so much like a history scene, but it does have history in it. So at the top, that's called the Apotheosis of Washington. That painting depicts George Washington ascending to the heavens. He is becoming an American god. And that's what apotheosis means. It means to elevate a person to the level of God. So, if you're going to be honest about that painting, that would horrify George Washington. He was more on the modest side. He didn't like all the reverence that people showed to him when he was alive. That's painted in 1865. So Washington had been dead for over 60 years. He didn't get a say. But what's going on? Washington is in the middle. He's sitting on the rainbow with a lavender blanket across his lap. And he is ascending up to the heavens to become that god. There's a circle of maidens dancing around above Washington's head in the sky. Now, around the edges of the painting, separate scenes with Roman gods and goddesses combined with American history and technology. And we see lots of Roman gods and goddesses sprinkled throughout a lot of the 19th century Capitol art, because back when that art was being done, there was a feeling among us Americans that we were aspiring to be the next great republic. Like we were actively comparing ourselves to the Roman Republic of antiquity, which was really weird, because everyone knew what happened to the Roman Republic. It did not stay a republic. It became a dictatorship. But we liked the aesthetic. So Roman gods and goddesses were. And then I'll kind of put out a question for the group. That painting, does it kind of freak you out? It's a little weird. What are we doing deifying Washington? But this whole painting, it's supposed to play into this notion of the American civic religion. Civic religion, where it's supposed to be ingrained in Americans to treat civics as seriously as one might treat their religion. Because you have to, back up and think. What unites Americans? We are different races, we're different religions, different ethnicities. We come from all over this big country and the world. But the uniting element for us is supposed to be our government that is of us, by us, and for us. But the government's not self-sustaining. It requires Americans working together to protect it. And we do that within the confines and the rituals of the civic religion. So the biggest ritual is voting. Like going to vote should be a religious experience for America. You go vote every time there's an election. You don't complain about it. You feel good about yourself afterwards. And then there's less serious rituals. Like the way we treat the 4th of July is almost like a religious holiday. But there are rituals on the 4th. You wake up in the morning, you put on your red, white, and blue Old Navy shirt that says 2004 on it. Maybe you go to a parade, have a cookout, eat some barbecue. When it gets dark, you'll blow stuff up and drink beer and brown liquor. Thank you, Kentucky. But like Americans, you made a pilgrimage to Washington to see your government in action. So that's what we're doing here. You think of Washington as the god of our civic religion. Don't upset Washington. The building we're standing in is like the temple of the civic religion, and then the city of Washington would be the headquarters. And it would maybe make more sense if we buried George Washington in there. What other kinds of buildings have crypts and tombs in them? Churches, cathedrals, right? So that's what we're doing. Not to get too preachy. Any questions so far? Yeah.
Is this the place where the presidential ceremony takes place?
Not normally, but yes, this year. So one of the big ceremonies that occasionally happens in the Rotunda is the inauguration of the president.
Yeah, here.
And that happened in here, yes. But that was rare because we normally have the inauguration outside, but it was too cold that day, so they moved it indoors. And that has only happened twice. It happened this year in January, and then in January of 1985, President Reagan's second inauguration. It was also too cold that day. But normally the inaugurations are outside. Yeah. Other questions?
What's too cold?
What's too cold? It kind of depends on who's in charge. Yeah. I mean, I think there was snow around. Any other questions? All right. Well, hey, I'll give you a little more context. So we're going to do a lap around here in a second, but I want to make sure you know what you're taking pictures of. So that side of the rotunda, those are scenes from the American Revolution. People have often seen those a lot because they're history textbooks, like usually in middle school or high school history textbooks. Over on our side, it's Europeans exploring and colonizing. Like here's the Pilgrims right in front of us, coming to Massachusetts. The Pilgrims are in the art a few times. Then a little bit higher up, above all four entrances, there are these relief carvings. Those are interactions between Native Americans and Europeans. And then just under the windows is a timeline mural that is a mishmash of all types of history. And that is a flat painting under the windows. It's supposed to look like carved stone. And the mural, it has 19 scenes covering about 400 years of history in chronological order. It begins and ends above that doorway. You look up, there's Columbus stepping off the boat, goes around clockwise, and then ends with the Wright brothers. And then nothing happened after 1903. Now, most of the art was finished by the time the 20th century really got going. We didn't have much space, all we got was the airport. But guys, hey, let's step out this way. So we're going to start moving around the rotunda together. I will lead the way. We're going to go all the way back to that doorway. Next, we'll see National Statuary. But this next one, Statuary, is the costume. steps. Thank you. Now again, this is National Statuary Hall, for obvious reasons. And this is also the old House chamber. So this is where the House of Representatives met in the Capitol for the first half of the 19th century. They moved out of here in 1857. The House had to leave this chamber because they simply outgrew the size of the space. At the most, there were 237 representatives serving here. They each had their own desk back then. And when the House was meeting here, that was when the country was growing pretty quickly. Like, we're moving west, we're adding states to the Union, you add states to the Union, you add members to the House and the Senate. So by the 1850s, there were so many new members in Congress that the Capitol wasn't big enough anymore. So they did a big expansion project on the building. In the 1850s, the Capitol was tripled in size. A new north wing was built for a larger Senate chamber, and a new south wing was built for a larger House chamber. In just a second, we're going to move the group to the other side. We can look down that hallway. The building used to end where the ramp is on the floor. Basically, see where the emergency exit sign is sticking out on the right? That's where the building used to end. But then everything down the hall was added in the 1850s. And there's double doors at the end. That's the main entrance to the current House chamber. So the doorway at the end of the hall is how they lead the president into the chamber when the president has to give the State of the Union address every year. Well, let's start going through this. We might be on TV. Also, you can also see down the hall there's a couple of TV cameras. That's normal. The First Amendment in action. Freedom of the press. But the news networks have to set up their cameras in that hall so they can do live shots during the day. So sometimes you watch enough cable news, you'll see me in the back.
Cool. That's Daniel.
We're going to bring you a little across.
Where's Nevada?
One little.
Brigham Young. Kentucky, Iowa, Vermont.
Everybody gather around. Let's make a stand for the very old water. Everybody, just a little bit closer so we're not spread out, because there's another group that's trying to get across too. Actually, you know what? Everyone, you guys all stand closer to the statues in this doorway over here. After the House of Representatives moved out of this chamber in 1857, they're left with a big empty space here. And we weren't sure how to use this one. But back in the 19th century, Congress was obsessed with beautifying the interior of the Capitol with as much art as possible. So they decided they have to use this old chamber for art. And they kicked around some ideas. And then in 1864, Congress established the National Statuary Collection. And they had this old House chamber turned into Statuary Hall as the place to display many statues. At that time, the states were invited to send in 2 statues of important people, and there were rules for the statues. The subject has to be dead. So you gotta be dead to have your statue. The statues themselves can only be made of bronze or marble. So dark ones are bronze, white ones are marble. And the statues are truly big. States were gung-ho to make a bunch of statues in the 19th century. And we didn't have 50 states at the time, so we would get 1 or 2 statues every couple of years. And it took from the 1860s until 2005 to get 2 of all 50 states. But nowadays, you get to see newer statues. Since 2000, the states have had the option of replacing old statues. So before the year 2000, once the state had 2, that's it. But now states can take back old statues, and the old statue goes on display in the state, like in the state capitol, or the museum of the state. The state has a new statue made of a different person, and send that to the capitol to be unveiled. It's a way to update it. And you can argue it's like a living. It'll never be. 11 states have replaced one original statue. 3 states have replaced both original statues. And I think right now we're probably at like 6 to 8 states that are somewhere in the process of replacing one statue. So if you're ever come back to the Capitol in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll have newer statues to show. But you guys were at 12:52. When you were waiting in the line for the movie to start before the tour, you were standing next to the 2 newest statues that we got at the end of last year. There's one from Utah, Martha Cannon. She was the first woman elected to a state senate in the United States. She was elected to the Utah Senate in 1896, and she beat her husband in that Senate race. Doesn't say that on the statue. Then right next to Martha Cannon, the other newest statue from Arkansas, my favorite, Johnny Cash. So we have a country rock musician on the statue.
Wow.
Which I think is cool because like people tend to think that statues have to be politicians, which makes sense because of the setting. But the statues can be of anybody. We have statues of educators. We have statues of inventors. There's civil rights activists. A couple of religious figures and statues. And there's a couple of saints. One painter, Charlie Russell from Montana. And there's even a comedian for a statue. That's Will Rogers. He was a vaudeville comedian. Question?
You have the statue of Wright brothers who invented the aeroplane?
There's no statue of the Wright brothers, no. Ohio was maybe thinking about that. Ohio, yes. The other Ohio statue is James Garfield. Marty Bob. What other questions about statues or what else?
Have anybody rejected?
Has any statue been rejected? No. We've come close many times. I mean, people think that the controversy with Confederate statues just started. But no, in 1909, Virginia was putting in a statue of Robert E. Lee. And in 1909, you had Union Civil War veterans still serving in Congress. They didn't want a statue of Robert E. Lee in the building. So they fought real hard. They tried to vote against it, but the vote failed. So Virginia had Robert E. Lee as a statue until 2020.
Wow.
They took it out. And then another controversial statue in the 1890s, Wisconsin was putting in a statue of Father Jacques Marquette. And he was Catholic. And there were all kinds of people who did not want like a statue of someone who was Catholic. But Wisconsin won. Marquette is still here. It's down the hall. How times have changed. Other questions? Yeah.
You're talking about
Well, Marquette's Liberty. Yeah, that's original. That's been in the room since this was the house change. So freedom is on top of the dome. Liberty is here. Liberty is throughout the building. Allegorical. How do they clean everything? There is a government agency called the Architect of the Capitol that is in charge of that. And I actually work for the Architect. There is a guy who is the Architect of the Capitol. His name is Thomas Austin. But it's a legislative branch agency. Yeah, question? Very good. All right, guys, we got to get moving because I have a schedule to keep, and maybe you do too. So we're going to head down to the visitor center and wrap up the tour there. But we have to walk back with the king. So we're going to pass the speaker's office again. Every speaker since Newt Gingrich, beginning in 1989, is the same office.
That's his office in this building, and then he has his second office in the
Speaker walks through the door. Although when they're in sections where it's before that, it could have been anybody, like any leadership office. guys are going to go through the doorway that says right, watch your step.
Ooh, do we get to go upstairs? Is it cool up there?
Yeah, it's okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, I wonder what his last name is.
Same as your dad.
But at the bottom of the stairs, we're just going to turn right and then head down the escalator back to the visitor center.
I think go up. How do you get to go up to the top?
Yeah, I think it's only something.
You pay for it?
No, you have to have a special invitation from your elected official.
Get to the end, maybe turn to the left, we're going to walk down this hallway a bit. Dab her one more time.
Brutal honesty. Yeah, I love it.
Oh, that's so, like the civil religion? Not, the founding fathers wouldn't have used the term civic religion, but they understood that in order to like get everyone on the same page, you had to have like a set of rules that are separate from the Constitution. And so they sort of started it, but then like the concept of the civic religion, it exists in other countries. But I just stole all my stuff from Robert Bellah, who was a sociologist in like the 1960s. If you Google Robert Bellah, and like he had this whole big like write-up about the civic religion. And it has a little bit to do with like actual religion too, but there's all these like sets of beliefs that are like within a civic religion. And other, like I said, other countries have it too. Like France has probably the civic religion. Yeah, Robert Bellah. He was like a Yale Princeton sociologist. But guys, we're back in the visitor center, so it is pretty much the end of the tour. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope maybe you learned something. At the very least, I hope you got good pictures and you weren't bored out of your mind. But I had a great time. It means you did too. Thank you all for coming out to the Capitol. The House meeting room, that's not, you want to go to the House chamber? So if you want to go to like the actual chambers where they meet, you have to get gallery passes. And you pick those up at the office of your representative or one of your senators if you live in the United States. If you don't live in the US, visit the House appointment desk and the Senate appointment desk here in the visitor center. And they'll get you squared away. But help you get your bearings as we finish this tour. We're on the upper level of the visitor center, so there's this long hallway here. Just behind you, restrooms and water fountains. Down here on the right, there's a gift shop. We have 2 gift shops. They sell the same things. Just go to one. Past the gift shop on the right, more restrooms. if you're trying to get out of this building like I am every day at 4 o'clock, the main exit is at the end of the hall. Go to the green light and that screen with the capital on it. That'll get you outside. But you don't have to leave. You can go downstairs via the escalator. The lower level is our museum called Exhibition Hall and the cafeteria if you wanted something to eat. But I'm done. Thank you all for listening. Can I see one headset real quick? Thank you, yes. So with the headset, I need it returned a certain way. Take the orange lanyard part, hang that on the earphone side with the wire coming out of the bottom, so everything's hanging and dangling on one side. This just makes it easier for us to wipe down the sanitizer. So I'll collect these. You all are free to go. You're welcome. Enjoy the rest of your time in DC. Oh, we got throw this in the trash. They broke. These are like dying. It's okay.
Are gallery passes available on the flyer, or is that something that needs to be?
No, you can just go into the office and demand gallery passes. Just like that. Yeah, they should have a big stack of those at the desk. Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
The museum's down there. Can we take a lap through the gift shop and then go down to the museum? I'll just. Oh, okay, sure. Let's do that downstairs.
Yes, sir. Yeah, those the white ones right around the corner.
Will you want to go to the gift shop?
You're just sending it to the same thing in the library.
Hey. Yeah, good to see you.
Tracy,
What did he say? Go through the tunnel?
Oh, Jack. Great.
What?
We have to